Welcome back to the Kinda Athletic Podcast. This is episode 23. We're still kicking it around, but this week we're going to cover the NFL, talk about quite a few different things went down, a lot of quarterback battles, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, Seahawks, of course, just covering the game, see what kind of happened, nothing too much. Then going into college football, there was a couple, I wouldn't say there was an upset, but a couple games that kind of came down to the wire. WSU had a pretty good game against San Jose.
Best game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Honestly, it might have been the best game.
It was a pretty good game. And then
everyone was asleep for it.
Yeah. And then we will cover the MLB, a little bit about the Mariners. There's not too much going on just because we're, edging up on that postseason, so nothing crazy yet. We will cover a little bit about NASCAR, the race in Bristol, and then the next week coming up in Kansas. Then we'll end like we do every week with a Christian athlete spotlight, our verses, and then a prayer. But like I said, we'll start this week with the NFL. So I'll start off with Thursday Night Football and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
Dominated.
He's back.
I don't know about he's back.
He looked
Who did they play?
Good. Honestly, they played. Who did they? They played the Patriots. So he
looked way better. He looked mobile. He looked like he was ready to go.
He just looked like he could play football.
Yeah, but it's the Patriots. So I'm just gonna tell you.
I mean, that's not a terrible.
I don't
thing to
disagree,
say,
but I don't think I would consider him back. I would say he had a good.
It was fun to watch.
It was entertaining.
So I mean, Garrett Wilson, that connection's not quite there yet. So once they figure each other out, I know with Alan Lazard, he threw his first Jets touchdown to him, which was just kind of cool. They played together in Green Bay
forever.
But yeah, other than that, I think he proved that he can still play football.
Yeah, I agree. I think people should be on keep their eyes on and be like, okay, I don't think he's back. He's no MVP candidate. He's not, but he could take the Jets.
He can play
somewhere.
Football.
They could be. Thing. I mean, in all honesty, you have the Bills, but I think that they are probably the favorites in that division now with Tua down. I think that's a big shock for obviously Miami, but yeah, I think they're definitely probably the favorites. In my opinion.
The only thing that I didn't notice about that game, but I saw is Drake May obviously came in and made his NFL debut. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't
know. It wasn't going to put him in a good situation. He wasn't really going to learn anything from it.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously any experience is a good experience, but it was just
yeah, I don't.
Why?
I'm kind of the same way. I don't really. I mean, again, I think like you said, I think it just happens to be that's just where it goes, and that's what happens when you're in that type of situation. But I don't know.
I just thought it was weird. I mean,
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. I completely agree. I think you look at it too, and it's not like it wasn't what's his head was giving you any. I don't even remember who was
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. He wasn't even doing anything, so it's
no. I mean, he wasn't having a good game, but I mean, I'm not to be rude, but Jacoby Brissett is not really a good quarterback. He's one of the best backups, honestly. Yeah. I mean, he comes in, he wins games, but he's not gonna do anything.
I agree, and I think Drake May's obviously probably the future. So it's at some point you're going to give him some reps and let him play because you have to. The Patriots have to be thinking into this season. We're not going to win anything. It's not a winnable season. We might as well take some heat and get some losses, but also try to build up for the future. And that's Drake May.
And one thing I did hear during the broadcast is that Brissett takes 70% of the first team snaps, and then Drake May takes 30%, which is kind of interesting. Changing. So they're already trying to fill him in more, obviously, to be that starter. But it's I mean,
when I'm okay,
that's
with
just
it,
a whole different trend. Is those quarterbacks are starting to start right away.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is you're starting to see
first year quarterbacks is not a backup.
You're starting to see a lot of quarterbacks get thrown into the fire and fail very quickly. I mean, look at Kyler Murray's a great example. It took him a long time. Bryce Young's obviously been benched. Yeah. We'll talk about that game in a little bit, but he, like Baker Mayfield said, it might be the wrong situation, might be the wrong coaching staff, might be the wrong area, there's so many different, I mean, he's the possible
first person to say that. He's the greatest example of it.
Yeah, so Baker's a great example of it too. He failed in Cleveland, then he failed in Carolina, and then he was a backup, and now he's found success in Tampa Bay. So, and I agree with you. I think it takes some time, and I think you look at it. Let's go right to that Carolina game because obviously it was a very entertaining game, very very fun. They blew out the Raiders.
It was 36-32. I'm pretty sure. So it was still a good game, yeah. Let me find the score, but I'm almost positive that it was close.
I thought it was a further spread than that.
It was.
Mine's loading because I have too many tabs open. 36
32.
22.
Oh, 22. Yeah, so I mean, 2 touchdowns.
And I think Andy Dalton came in and
just played a good game.
Well, I think he just shows that he's got the veteran presence. He knows how to pick apart a defense. He, and plus they didn't know how to, the Raiders might not know how to strategize for him. Antonio Pierce is still a new coach. Still a very interesting team with the Raiders. Minshew did not have a great game. There is now talks that they're already going to bench him, which I be a little biased. I think it's a little early. McConnell did come in it's McConnell, right?
Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell came in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things. One, I'll start with the Raiders first because it's not as big a deal. I don't think there's any reason that you're 1-2. There's no reason to bench anyone. You have not played bad. Minshew has not played bad. It really hasn't been all his fault that they've lost. When your team gives up 36 points, it's kind of like the Mariners. It's kind of like the Mariners. Like if we give up, if we can score 5 runs, we'll win all our games. If the defense gives up 36 points, you can't expect Minshew just to put up 40.
Yeah, I would say the only thing with that is if Minshew throws interceptions, he's also feeding into that, which he did.
I think
I'm not saying it's obviously not all his fault.
No, I agree, and he knows he has to be better. And I think he's had almost an interception each game. Again, like I would tell anyone, I love Gardner Minshew. He holds a very special place in my heart with Wazoo, but he is a backup, and he's a very, very, very good backup. He's right on that border of I should be a starter and I should be a backup kind of guy. I think if he's a backup, he's the best backup in the league. But I agree. I mean, he has to be better, and he knows that. And I don't know what their schedule is. I would not say that benching is ready for him. I personally, if I was a coach, I'd be like, you get 5 games, figure it out. But it is hard because it does always seem like it lands on the quarterback.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, for the instance, to me, it has been a lot.
Also, it is also just one game, so I'm not saying that Andy Dalton. I mean, Andy Dalton's obviously a decent quarterback.
Yeah, he could be terrible next week,
but he could he could literally just turn into the worst quarterback in the league.
And that's
people
hard.
Have good games all the time.
And Bryce Young, I think, has just been. There's 2 things. One, he's still coming off an injury. Everyone forgets he had that knee injury or whatever last year, where it took him out for most of the year. He is very young. He's still picking up the pace of the NFL, which is a mind-boggling difference than the NCAA, than college. Mm-hmm. He's also only 22? He's not, I don't know how old he is exactly, but he's not old. You have to just give him some patience and just kind of ride the storm with him, because some people are 23. Because some people are already like, oh my gosh, keep Andy Dalton, trade Bryce Young, get first-round picks. And I look at it and go, no, Bryce Young's a very talented quarterback.
I would trade for Bryce Young.
If I was the Seahawks or there's a bunch of teams that I think
it was the Dolphins, Seahawks, and somebody else that I saw that were if he's available.
Because
why wouldn't you? He's obviously talented. I mean, he had a horrible start to his career, but like we said before, he doesn't have a surrounding cast to help him.
No.
And it most, like you said, the blame mostly does fall on a quarterback.
When your best wide receiver is Adam Thielen,
you need.
I don't know.
You need something there, but he doesn't have the help that he needs.
Yeah. I agree, and I think that it's hard now because obviously Dalton had
But like I said, I mean, if he doesn't
win 26 for 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns,
that's a good game.
That's an outstanding game, and that doesn't Andy Dalton didn't do that when he was young. Andy Dalton was okay on Cincinnati for a while, but he was not putting up these numbers consistently. This was a rare game for him, even when he was playing consistently. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. But I hope they don't bench Minshew, in my opinion, just because I like him. But I also you're 1-2. And if you look at the standings, I don't know what all the standings look like, but it's like
that's what I was gonna say. It depends on the division for me.
Okay, well, you're not going to beat. You're not going to beat.
Super close right now.
You're not going to beat Kansas City, and I would guess.
I think the Chargers will beat the Raiders.
I would
because they've looked better.
I would guess. Denver's 1-2. They're 1-2. Chargers are 2-1. Kansas City's 3-0. There's no reason to be like panicking and being like we need to change up the entire thing. In my opinion, but
you can overcome 2 losses
100%, very easily,
especially at this point.
So, but I mean, I agree. I mean, even like Carolina, they're 1-2. They're tied with the Falcons. Who would have bet that?
Yeah. The one thing I was kind of curious about is actually moving to the Bucks and Broncos, where the
Bo Nix came to play.
Win. He still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass.
Oh, that's kind of crazy. I didn't know that.
He rushed for a touchdown, but he still had. I mean,
I actually think I did see it. It was like weird. 3 running backs or something scored a bunch of them. Yeah, it was kind of weird. And again, see, like that's a weird game too. Like Tampa Bay, I think everyone would have bet on Tampa Bay, and they just did not have a good game.
I never expected the Broncos to win this game.
Especially in Tampa Bay. I mean, that's just one of those games where
not
someone
a single
played good.
Chance.
Yeah, he had 216, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 25 for 36. He had a rushing touchdown. Is it McClain? I don't know. Jareel. I don't know all these guys. This is like a backup. I'm not sure. It's not Tyler Batty. Just a good overall game from Denver. I mean, they played different, and then the Buccaneers. Mayfield had a bad game. 163, a touchdown and a pick. That's not a good game out of him. We expect better out of him. But I mean, they just didn't have they just got outplayed on the defensive end. I mean, total yards, Tampa Bay had 223. Like, that's about as much as your quarterback should get every game.
That's not
and
great.
Denver only had 352, so it's not like Denver had an amazing game. They had probably a pretty average game.
I would expect it more from the Bucs just because
100%.
I feel like they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs, but I feel like they should be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. So
I agree. I'm with you on that.
That's kind of crazy.
Yep.
But the guy we talked about last week, Malik Willis, he kind of came out of nowhere
For Tennessee Packers.
He had quite the game going back to Tennessee.
I don't think I actually pulled that game up. I did not.
He had, I think, 93 rushing yards, like 200 and some passing touchdowns.
Because that was like yards. That was a fun one because it was like a prove it game because he started in Tennessee. Yeah, he looked good. And I mean, I think, again, you look at the situation, Tennessee literally had no one except for Derrick Henry for him to even work with.
Actually, talking about that, I saw a post that it's like, oh, the situation actually does matter.
100%.
Because look at Malik Willis is so.
And again, do I think that he's going to go and win MVP? No, not even close.
No.
But do I think that do I think he's going to win the starting job over Jordan Love? No, not even close.
No.
But when you give someone a good situation, like I always use, again, people are going to be like, you're talking about Minshew way too much. You look at Minshew on the Colts. That's a good team. That's a solid roster. You look at him on the Eagles. He won a couple games. You look at him on the Jaguars when they had some good. When you put someone with good pieces, they do pretty well.
Out.
Yeah. Obviously, the Raiders, they have some solid pieces, and it just hasn't clicked quite yet for him. But I do find it interesting that yes, I agree with you. When you're in a good situation with a good coach, with someone who has trust in you, look at Geno Smith with the Seahawks. Who would have ever bet that Pete Carroll would have been like, I'm going to make you comeback player of the year and a Pro Bowler? If you told any Seahawk before he even played a game,
was a backup for 2-3 years with us. I mean, that was before him not doing well in the Jets, not on the Giants, not on the Chargers, and
nothing.
Was a backup for Wilson. We're like, okay, like that's fine.
Yeah, he's a solid backup. He'll come in and help.
And then, like you said, he comes out and
you have a good coach that can scheme around
for
you
a year or two.
Yep, you got a good coach that can scheme around you. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. I mean.
There was a bunch of great games.
I mean,
I really enjoyed it. Like even the Philadelphia game,
that was a close one.
That was a good game against
the Saints.
And the Saints kind of got shut down for the first time. I mean,
they've been a high flying offense.
Yeah, the defensive strategy out of Philadelphia, which Philadelphia's defense hasn't been good. They ran 5 on the line a lot and just put a lot of pressure on Derek Carr. And I don't think he crumbled. They just couldn't get down the field far enough.
Not used to not being able to run their plays efficiently.
Kamara didn't. I mean, Kamara only had 87 yards, which does help. I mean, Derek Carr had 142 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And that's fine. I mean, they just got Saquon Barkley had a game and a half, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was just it was a boring game to watch, but it was a very defensive battle game. But I was impressed. The Eagles look like they actually can play football again for honestly this whole year. I know they were 2-1, but the other 2 games I've been like, they don't. I don't know about them.
Well, a guy that I'm not very high on, but I know a lot of people are, Caleb Williams. Well, I think he was kind of unleashed this week.
Well, and it was interesting too because he and Adunze, they got that was their first touchdown. I thought they looked fine. I don't think that
he had 363 yards, which is impressive. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. But I was like, I think he's not there.
He will get his feet probably by week 5, week 6, and I think they'll be solid. Yeah. Again, I think that Bears fans just went into this season
thinking he was going to be MVP.
Yeah, they're just we're going to make the playoffs. There's no one else in our division. Everyone sucks, and they're like, oh my gosh, Minnesota's been playing really good, and oh my gosh, the Packers are actually the Packers. So you look at it and you're like, what the heck,
Yeah.
I think Caleb Williams will be the best player out of that draft. Easily. He has so much talent.
Yeah.
But give the kid a year. And I don't know if it's just from me playing basketball so long is the fact that you go from one level to the next so different. Mm-hmm. Is it such a jump in speed? And people don't realize that. They're like, oh yeah, they look the same on TV. Yeah, duh.
It's way different.
You're watching
the best
on TV.
Of the best.
There's 32 teams with 100 teams on it or whatever. So there's 3,200 players.
The best players in college are playing on.
There's
not just guys that were good in high school that got recruited and eventually found their way to play college football. No, it's the guys that, I mean, not necessarily 5 stars, but become 5 stars, get drafted.
They're so good.
Are still good.
Yeah. And people, I don't think, realize how fast the game changes and why people struggle. And, you see the dip in it. But, I mean, I think, like you said, obviously they lost. but I think they'll be fine. I think they'll still be a 500 team. I think they'll still fight for a wild card spot. I don't think they will fight for the Division 1 because I still think Green Bay is the favorite, but Sam Darnold has decided to have a resurgence. And first off, like, kudos to Sam Darnold. Like, it's awesome to watch him play.
And freaking took it.
Hey, we just talked about it. Situations.
Yeah.
Somehow this situation, I don't know what it is, because to me, going into the season, I was not high on Minnesota. I was like,
I thought he was going to start like 5 games, and then McCarthy was going to come in.
And now it looks like Sam Darnold's, I mean, obviously he's in a contract year too, but hey, if he takes you to the playoffs, in my opinion, JJ, sorry, buddy.
You got to ride him out.
But JJ's on the bench. Yeah. And that sucks because I think JJ McCarthy has all the talent in the world, but hey, if Sam Darnold can prove with 4 touchdowns, 181 yards, week in, week out, do something like
solid.
That. If you could do that, why wouldn't you take him? Why? And you know that Sam Darnold's probably going to be like a Geno type of a deal. It's not going to. He's not going to get 40 million plus. He's not going to get 50 million. He's not going to get these crazy Dak Prescott deals.
Yeah.
He's going to get 30, 35. He's not. He's had one good year. I mean, if I was the Vikings, I'd be like,
I think he got 15 this year, so that would
so you double it or something, and I would be like, hey, you give him 30 over 3 years. 3 years, 90 million. Third year's a team option. That's a very fair contract to him. Yeah. Because I think he probably wants to stay in Minnesota knowing that the situation is what it is.
Yeah.
And you get paid pretty darn well. I mean, pretty darn well, $30 million.
I wish.
But
be cool.
You stay in that situation, and then, if anything, hey, you have one good year and one bad year, then, maybe you do mentor. Yeah, you mentor JJ into that starting role. But, I mean, if they go like 5-6, I don't know what their schedule looks like, but if you go 5-6-0, you have at the Packers next week, huge game.
That's gonna be a big game.
Jets at home, Lions at home. And people are like, oh, they haven't played anyone. They're not in a gauntlet, whatever.
The Texans are
good. They just beat the 49ers. Their start of their season, the Giants, I was like, win. 49ers lost. Texans lost. Packers lost. Jets lost. Bye. Lions lost. Rams lost. Colts win. Jaguars win. Like, I looked at a lot of these games. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that, especially if Jordan Love's not playing, they could easily beat the Packers. I believe they're at Green Bay too, which would be a massive win for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, it's a division rival, so you never know. And then the Jets come to Minnesota, which I think is, I mean, obviously that's Aaron Rodgers back there, but I don't see why. I mean, in all honesty, I think they could get to week 6 5-0. I don't know why I wouldn't see that. And then the Lions come to town.
Depends on the Lions team you get. It seems as of recently.
Yeah, the Lions have been a weird one as well. And I mean, even the Texans, like, what did the Texans do? Where'd CJ Stroud go? He had 215 yards, but he had 2 picks. But yeah, then you have Detroit. Detroit had
they were just carried by the running backs. Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were just insane.
You know what really bugs me? I don't know if it is. It is David Montgomery. David Montgomery played for the Bears one year.
Yeah.
I had him on my fantasy team. The year before, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
The year I had him on my fantasy team, not very good. The year after that, this was my last year where I played fantasy because
Yeah.
And I was like, he was there, and I was like, oh, I can take him. He was pretty solid. Yeah. He gets you like, 10 points. It was like, he was fine. And then he averaged 18. It was unreal. I'm like, this guy's a loser.
Nice.
Yeah, totally carried. David Montgomery had 105 yards and a touchdown. Whoa.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Which Lions team which Cardinals team do you get? The Cardinals have been in both their games. In hindsight, I think they should have beat the Bills, and then they beat the Rams last.
That was a good game too for the Cardinals, and then they just crumbled against the Lions.
And it wasn't again, 21 for 34, 207, a pick and a touchdown. It's not bad. Marvin Harrison had 5 receptions, 61. They just kind of got the defense of the Lions just kind of showed up.
Yeah, pretty
much.
It
was just there. So kind of interesting. We can just kind of keep going down the ladder.
I think the last major one I had is the Steelers. Just not even necessarily the game, but Justin Fields is 3-0.
Yeah, and I don't think that's it. I don't think that's no.
There's no way.
There's no shot you make it. The fact of the matter is that when you went into the year, they were both starters.
Oh yeah.
There's no reason to put Russell Wilson in when the team the team hasn't scored anything. I'm not going to say that he's lighting the world on fire. He reminds me a lot of a Brock Purdy. He has done exactly what the system needs him to do, what Mike Tomlin asks him to do, and the defense has been playing very well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just where they've been.
There's Brock Purdy's better than Justin Fields.
Well, I would agree with that, but I'm saying that in that type of situation where I don't like Brock Purdy, I think it was last year or the year before, they said he had the lowest amount of passing attempts over 20 yards.
Oh, I think.
And so I'm like, that's all you have to do. Just chip away. And that's all they've done. I think that they've Pittsburgh's been very good on the defensive end, as they are always. I mean, they've given up 10 points, 6 points, 10 points. Yeah, that's going to win you games.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a reason to change because you don't want to mess that flow up.
Does that make Russell Wilson a trade candidate then?
I don't know. He's on 1 year.
Because like the Dolphins,
100%, and he's cheap. He's a cheap deal.
Use him in the worst way.
It's hard to know because you don't know what the Dolphins are going to do.
And you don't know about Justin Fields' health. You never know. So it's like, do the Steelers risk it?
It's a great question because to me, I don't think I'd do anything. I think Russell Wilson, in my opinion, probably knew going into this situation that like, hey.
But he signed before they traded for Fields.
Yeah, but I know. But when that happened, still, when they both got there, you look at it and you go, I could very, very, very hypothetically easily be backup.
Yeah,
that's just what it is. I was good on Denver last year. We know he was good on Denver last year for most of it until he got shut down because of the contract situation.
Stupid,
but you look at it and you just go, to me, I go, why would you mess up this flow?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, they're winning. Why would you change it?
There's zero reason for me to do that. Ravens Cowboys. What a
Derrick Henry's back, baby.
Derrick Henry,
151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah,
he had a game. But what a comeback out of the Cowgirls.
Dude, they put up 19 in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I'm like, can
crazy.
You guys just not make this?
And the onside kick and everything else. And if they would have made, I think it was.
Did they miss a field goal?
No. They went for 2 twice.
Oh.
And if they would have just kicked them both, they'd been 27-28 and they could just kick the field goal.
That's insane.
Which, again, hindsight's 20/20. Who knows what could happen. I mean, obviously, at this situation, you're still within a field goal. But
that was a crazy game because honestly, the Ravens dominated the first 3 quarters. Like
100%. It wasn't even close.
And then the Cowboys just
figured it out. Well, and Dak had a great game, 379. He threw the ball 51 times, 2 touchdowns. He had a great game. CeeDee Lamb has not really showed up this season.
Not very much. He got paid, but
yeah, Jake Ferguson had a good game. Prescott had a rushing touchdown, and that was like really it. I know that Turpin and Tolbert had one, but yeah, Derrick Henry. I mean, talk about putting the team on your back. The run defense out of the Cowboys did not look good. Honestly, their 3 big money guys, CD, Dak, and Micah. Micah was, in my opinion, not that good. Was not very scary. Didn't threaten anyone. Dak had a good game, but you know how Dak is. He's up and down.
Yeah.
CD hasn't shown up all year. He just hasn't really. I mean,
yeah. I think it was. I mean, just
maybe against the Browns, he had a good game, but
yeah, it's also like with Travis Kelce this year.
Yeah,
I mean, he's had 8 receptions, so
and
that's been a tough transition because I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. People just know he's good now. And so, they have to game plan differently to get him open.
Week 1, so. Yeah. Well, he needs to do a better job of getting open too, because to me, you look like Calvin Johnson. You put 3 guys on him, he still catches the ball.
Yeah,
to me, that was always my argument when people would be like, with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
stepdad brings it up a lot. Justin Jefferson's this all-time talent, which is fine. I agree. He's super, 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 super good. He's not on that Julio Jones, prime Julio Jones level. He's not even there to me. He's not Randy Moss. He's not Calvin Johnson. These guys, and there's differences because you could say he's not Wes Welker, he's not Steve Largent. Those are more slot guys, a lot of yards after the catch. But those Randy Mosses, Calvin Johnsons, and Julio Joneses of the world, those guys just were bigger, and that's kind of where CD is to me. I feel like he's got to be that bigger guy. But when you go 3 games, 61 yards against the Browns, 90 against the Saints, and 67 against the Ravens, it's not good enough. I'm not saying that it's his fault. Yeah. But when you're going to be the star boy of how much money you're getting paid, top wide receiver in the league, whatever, you need to be putting up closer to 100 yards every game, and he's not. So I don't know. It's the Cowboys. What do you expect? I mean, Stephen A. Smith loves it. Yeah, they're going to win, and they sell everything. They sell tickets. They sell everything. They've, in my opinion, fooled an entire fan base. It's almost as good as the Mariners. I mean, we're basically as fooled as it is anything. Sam's wearing another Mariners hat that I didn't know he had.
I have worn this one before.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I got all of them.
So I don't know. I think personally that the Cowboys are. I said they were going to miss the playoffs this year. I believe. Pretty sure I said they were going to miss the playoffs. I'm pretty sure I have the Commanders above them.
That would be shocking.
It won't. Not shocking.
The Commanders are not great. They do play tonight though. So
they are, I think, on. No, they're probably. They might be on right now. Another really fun game. I've just got 2 more to go through. I'll go quick because Kansas City was on.
I feel like we talked about this before, but that was really just that pass interference in the end zone that they missed.
Terrible missed call.
And I was like,
it was such a pass interference. It changes the whole game. Obviously, puts them on the 1 yard line.
Gone ahead, right?
The Falcons would have gone ahead.
Yeah,
they would have scored. They would have been up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They would have been up 2. Yeah. And they probably would have gone for 2, so they could have been up 3 or they could have been up 1. But yeah, the Falcons look good. I mean, at 2-1, they're probably the best 2-1 team in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins is starting to find his footing.
Honestly, they're 2-1.
They're 2-1 or 1-2. So
1 and 2.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
I was gonna say that first game. Honestly, I don't think Cousins was quite ready because he was still. They were talking about it. He's more of like a play action. That's just where he kind of dominates is in the play action. But then he also needs to not scramble, but he needs to move. That first week they put him under center, so he just wasn't doing much.
Yeah.
Then they put him in. No, they put him in the shotgun. That's what it was. So he wasn't really getting any of that play action.
Movement around,
anything going. But then once he was under center the last week and this week, he's done much better.
Yeah,
and the team's starting to improve. They're starting to get connections with everybody. Obviously, that's going to take a while. But, I mean, Drake London has done better. Kyle Pitts, I just wish they could figure out Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts could be so good, but he just isn't.
Yeah, and I think that'll change, especially with this year with having Cousins. I think Cousins will help that. I mean, he's had good wide receivers.
He has so much talent.
Was it TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota who was very good? Helped. They had that connection. I think it will get better with Cousins. The one that is interesting still is B.J. Robinson. Bijan Robinson. Excuse me, not B.J. Robinson. Bijan Robinson. I think he goes by B.J. I think I heard that on the radio. That's why.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, the last play call was weird. Yeah. Trying to run the ball. Again, it kind of reminded me of the Huskies, but that was a great play call.
Yeah.
Idiots. Sure. But so I don't know. I was confused by that. But last year, I remember he didn't get enough touches. This year, he's getting a lot of touches and not really doing much. The Falcons are like a weird question mark, but I still think that they are
they're just so talented. That's the problem.
Best 1 and 2 team. Yeah. But the other last one I had before we get into the Chickens, the Rams. What a comeback! 13
good
points.
Divisional game.
Yeah, 13 points in the fourth quarter to come back and beat the 49ers. It is wild that the Seahawks are 3-0, and we'll get to them in 10 seconds. And every other team in the division is 1 and 2. Didn't see that.
That is such a big step up for us right now.
Thanks for listening to the Kinda Athletic podcast. Please like and subscribe to all our social media platforms and make sure to come back next week to hear more from the Kinda Athletic podcast.